Hello and welcome to Bio 100. My name is Ben Bramall and I'll be your instructor for the lecture portion of the course, Bio 100. And for those of you that are taking the lab, I'll also be your instructor for the laboratory portion of the course. We'll have a separate introduction for the laboratory portion of the course. Many of you are just enrolled in the lecture portion. So today I wanted to take a few minutes to talk about what the class will look like as a whole, where your grade will come from, and talk to you a little bit about biology and also about my background. So let's start with that. My name, again, is Ben Bramall. I'm an associate professor of biology here at Asbury University. This is my 6th year at Asbury. I guess I've been teaching biology for 11 years now. Doesn't seem like that long, but full-time in higher education. So I have a bachelor's in biology from Eastern Kentucky University. I have a master's in biology from Tennessee Tech University in Cookeville, Tennessee, and then I have a PhD in biology from the University of Kentucky, and research focus was aquatic toxicology. But beyond all that, I really just love biology. As a little kid, I was always attracted to animals and to the outdoors. I had a big collection of snakes and salamanders. We had all kinds of animals at different times. Dad was a veterinarian, and people would bring him animals that were hurt, and in some cases they really probably were not going to make it anyway, but I'd always try to rehab them. We had a fawn for a brief period of time. We had an owl at one particular point. We had a little alligator for a brief period of time. But that was on top of my collections of snakes and fish and salamanders. And so biology is always something that has drawn and fascinated me. And as I've gotten older, I've, of course, come to appreciate other elements of biology that I didn't when I was a little kid. But I hope you find that biology is somewhat fascinating to you as well. So biology is the science of life. It is the study of anything living. So it's a huge field that encompasses all kinds of different aspects. This is an introductory course for non-majors, and so we just sample all these little aspects of biology as we go throughout the course of our semester. It's really a fun course, and I hope that you find it interesting as well. So, since biology is the study of life, it encompasses certainly the study of physiology and everything about the body, whether it's the body of an animal or the body of a person. And so we're all certainly humans and have bodies. And so biology really tells us a lot about how our bodies function. One thing that we'll talk a good bit about during the course of our class is DNA. And what does DNA mean? And it's really a fascinating topic, I believe. You could make another you with the DNA from one cell of your body. Now, we don't think that human cloning has been conducted anywhere in the world, and there are ethical reasons not to do so that we'll talk about during the course of our semester, but it could be done. Cloning is very commonplace today, and all that you need to make another you is the DNA from one cell of your body. So there's a code found in that cell. That code consists of only four letters, A, C, T, and G, adenine, thymine, cytosine, and guanine. And it's the order of those 4 letters, those 4 bases, as we'll come to learn later in the semester, that determine everything about you. For instance, I have red hair and fairly pale skin as a result of the order of bases in a gene called the melanocortin receptor. And that's why I have red hair. If you have a different color hair, you have a different sequence of A, C, T's, and G's in that particular section. There are just over 3 billion A, C, T's, and G's bases in your genome, so over 3 billion letters that spell out the code that make up you, and those are put together into 20,500 genes or so. And so it's really a fascinating topic, and one that we're increasingly realizing plays a role in medicine. You may have heard of the relatively recent case of Angelina Jolie, or perhaps known someone, unfortunately, who found themselves in this situation. I was talking to my mother Saturday, I believe it was, and she had a friend who experienced this exact situation. So Angelina Jolie found out that she was a carrier for BRCA1. That's a particular gene that, if you have a certain sequence in it, predisposes you with great certainty to breast and ovarian cancer. So she preventatively had those parts of her body removed so that she wouldn't get cancer. But that's a fairly radical example, but that sort of issue is going to become more and more common in medicine because we simply understand every week that goes by, we understand more about the genome and how it contributes to how it impacts the human body. So most cancers are tied in some way to the genes. Almost all cancers, in fact, are tied to your genetics. And so you can have genetic tests that determine your predisposition to a number of different cancers. And that's only, of course, a very small aspect of human genetics. There are all kinds of other things that would be of some interest to you to know. You may have heard of the company 23andMe. That's a company where you can take a DNA sample, which you do with a little mouth swab, send it to them, and they can tell you where you came from. In other words, where your ancestors came from in the world. Was it somewhere in Europe or Asia or Africa? With great accuracy, they can tell where those genes that you possess came from. So, as we move forward into our class, we'll talk about all sorts of things like that. And the overall goal of our introductory biology class is to provide you, a non-major, with enough information that you can make wise decisions, or at least informed decisions, regarding aspects that concern biology as you go through daily life. You'll be asked to make decisions on things like stem cells and genetically modified organisms and the genetic issues that we just talked about, and all sorts of other issues as well. And so hopefully during our class we'll get at least a basic understanding of that. And I hope you'll find it interesting and want to learn more on your own about those issues. So let's talk about our class just a bit today, and I'm going to zoom in on the syllabus here that was posted last Friday. It's been up for a while for you to look at. So if you look at the texts for the class, I do apologize. I had the 4th edition listed when I posted this last Friday, and I did change it today. But what you'll find is that there's very little difference between our textbook and the 4th and 5th edition. If you'd like to order the 4th edition, then feel free to do so. So we use the textbook Biology, Science for Life by Belk and Mayer. This is a very good textbook for non-majors. It's well illustrated, it's very concise, the writing is very clear, and I strongly suggest that you get a hold of this textbook and use it during the course of the class. We will rely on it very heavily. So, for instance, my lectures all come directly from the textbook. What you'll see is that every lecture for each chapter is recorded in its entirety in a YouTube video, and I go through the slides, or slides that I've made, but they use the figures that are from the text. And in almost every case, maybe with one exception, I go in the same order as we have in these chapters, and so you can follow along in the textbook. And I think for most people, it's probably going to be necessary to read as well. I mean, it's very short, very easy reading, and I think that you'll find it interesting. But reading, they provide a very clear explanation there, and I think that really contributes to the student's understanding of the material. There are also practice questions there that you can use as you review for the exams. So that's one of our texts. That's actually by far the main text for the class. The other text that we use is listed second on our syllabus there, and it is Biology Through the Eyes of Faith by Richard Wright. Richard Wright is a research scientist who is also a Christian, and he's written this book as an attempt to integrate his faith with science, which is, of course, his career. And so it's a very well-written text, and periodically during the course of the semester we'll read. We don't read the whole thing, although you're certainly welcome and encouraged to do so, but we'll read chapters from it, and we'll answer questions on it. So we'll have a couple homeworks during the course of the semester that involve answering questions from Biology Through the Eyes of Faith, which is a very good text. All right, moving on down the syllabus then, we have our learning outcomes, and so you'll see that we'll talk a good bit about the scientific method, and especially in Chapter 1, but do remember that science is a method of gathering information. Beyond biology, physics, chemistry, all the different disciplines in science, are defined as a method of gathering information, and that method is the scientific method. And so the information that we have in our text was entirely gained via the scientific method. And we'll talk about what is science and what's not science, which is an important thing to know in today's world. Number 2, we're going to be able to distinguish between pseudoscience and non-science. Actually, just what I mentioned there, as we learn about the scientific method, we'll talk about what is not science. And then number 3, I have some of the concepts that we'll learn during the course of the semester: metabolism, reproduction, genetics, evolution, and ecology. We'll talk about all those in just some detail, not anything like you get in a majors class, but I hope that it's interesting to you. Our goal is to make it relevant to a non-major, or that's my goal, to make it relevant to a non-major. So we'll talk about intersections between your life and biology whenever possible. And then finally, number 4, to develop, I hope that you develop an enhanced appreciation for the natural world. The complexity of the natural world is stunning when you look at it from a biological perspective, when you look at the thousands of genes, for instance, that are necessary to create a living organism. And so we'll talk about that a good bit during the course of our class. All right, let's move on down just a little bit to instructional methods. And what we'll see is that you have several avenues that are available to you to learn during the course of the class. All of my lectures are posted in PowerPoint, there are PowerPoint lectures, but they're posted in YouTube form. So I scroll through the PowerPoints and then I lecture just like I would do in class, but I'm sitting here in front of a computer like I'm doing at this moment. I strongly encourage you to read. Periodically we'll have supplemental readings that are posted that will supplement what were our text readings and our discussions in class. And then we have some writing assignments that will be due throughout the course of the semester. Those are on the syllabus. We'll talk about those again in just a minute. We'll have quizzes to assure that you are learning the material, many of those, 16 in fact, as we go through the course of the semester. And then, of course, as you would imagine, we have exams periodically during the course of the semester. We'll look at those in just a moment. And then there's a final exam that is cumulative at the end of the semester. There'll be a review sheet for that, and you should do fine on that if you keep up and really comprehend things during the course of the semester. Shouldn't be a big deal at all. We make our way down to the honor code there. This is an online class, and so the honor code is particularly important. You are free to seek help from anyone, really, regarding the writing assignments, but only the writing assignments. Of course, you have to, I think this goes without saying, but you have to write them. But you're certainly welcome to consult your friends or family or whoever that could offer you insight into answering these questions. Of course, the information to answer the questions is found in the text and in the lectures as well, but you're welcome to consult anyone regarding those as long as it's your own writing. Now, it's a different story, as you would imagine, for the quizzes and the exams. The quizzes and the exams must be taken, of course, without assistance of any type, without consulting the web. So, in other words, you study, you prepare just like you would in an in-class setting. You open up the quiz, you go through the quiz and take it, and without looking at anything or talking to anyone else, start it and then finish it all in one little setting there. Anything else does constitute cheating, as I think really, I'm not sure that needs to be stated at all, but I'm sure that you realize that it is. So quizzes and exams have to be only you. The writing assignments, you're welcome to seek outside help. Okay, let's look at the grade next as we scroll down on the syllabus. And so the grade comes from, there's 1,000 points total, and those 1,000 points come from 4 different sources. We have 4 lecture exams that are worth 100 points each, spread throughout the course of the semester, so that's easy. We have quizzes. There's 16 quizzes total. There'll be 2 quizzes each week, and those are worth 200 points total during the course of this semester. We have 200 points that come from homework and writing assignments. Some of those are biology through the eyes of faith. Some of those are your writing assignments that will come with every 2 chapters, as we'll look at on the schedule in just a moment. And then we have the final exam, which is 200 points. So it's a fairly simple grade, but it does come from several different sources. It's fair to note that 60% of it overall does come from exams, either the in-semester ones or the final exams. So you do need to do somewhat well in those exams, but you will do fine on the exams if you comprehend the material, which shouldn't be an issue at all. It's interesting, and none of it is terribly difficult, and of course I'll be here to assist you, and you have all these resources at your disposal. Okay, so we have the standard Asbury grading scale that we can see down below that, and then last of all we have our schedule, which is of course interesting to all of us. So we start this week with our first 2 chapters, the scientific method and chemistry, biochemistry, and cells. At least those are the topics that are covered in the chapter, not the title of the chapter. And what we'll see is that we have a quiz. I guess I don't have it listed here, but there is a quiz associated with each chapter. So there's a quiz on chapter 1, a quiz on chapter 2, and then there's a writing assignment for every 2 chapters. And so the X indicates the chapter with which the writing assignment is associated. So the scientific method, for instance, has a writing assignment that's now open, as are the quizzes, And all that will be due on Sunday at midnight. And so that'll be, what day is that? The 23rd? Is that Sunday? 19, 20, nope, 24th, 25th. It's actually due the 25th. Sunday's the 25th. So it'll be due Sunday at midnight. I strongly suggest that you get them done by Friday. Another fair thing to note is this. I'm here to help you at any time. Probably the way that we'll correspond most, if this class is like any other class in the past, is via email. And so I'm constantly checking my email, as you would imagine, when I'm at work during the course of the work week, up until fairly late at night oftentimes. And then on weekends I do check email, but it's a little more sparse. And so if you have an issue, it's good to get things done on Friday, because I can certainly help you up until Friday, and I'll help you on weekends, but I'm not always right there at the computer all weekend, every weekend, as you might imagine. We can talk on the phone as well. You have my office number. You're always welcome to call me here. I'm in and out. I spend a good bit of time in my lab here in the classroom, so sometimes I'm not in my office, but I can always call you back, so we can talk there. Sometimes we even talk via a cell when I'm away from here as well. We typically just set up an appointment and do that. So I'm always here to answer questions as we go through the semester. So back to the schedule. It's a pretty simple schedule. We have an 8-week semester for this particular class, and we cover cover 2 chapters a week, and we have 16 chapters total. We have a quiz with every single chapter. We get to drop the lowest quiz grade. We have a writing assignment with every other chapter, and we have an exam every 4 chapters. So every 2 weeks you have an exam, and then each week you have 2 quizzes. So hopefully that makes sense. If we look down during the course of the semester, we see the topics that we'll cover. We go through all sorts of different topics, beginning with very small things, cells, for instance, membrane transport. We move to enzymes. We go through inheritance and DNA, spend some time with gene expression and genetically modified organisms, talk about natural selection, species, biodiversity, and end up with some ecology and big picture, like, for instance, biome sort of discussions. We do have a final exam that is cumulative, and it's a sort of an awkward situation because we don't have a final exam week built into our semester. So let me point out that you'll notice that last week ends on the 12th. That's Sunday, December 12th. And then, is that right? Nope, sorry, Sunday, December 13th. And then I've got to have that final exam to turn the grades in on Monday, December 14th. In fact, that's pushing it just a little bit there. So as you think about the end of the semester, remember that you do need to study for 2 exams there at the end. The last exam that will come pretty close. I mean, you could take that exam for any time, December 7th to after December 7th there. But you've got to take that final exam by the 14th. So put that on your schedule. You might want to work ahead a little bit so you give yourself a few days to study for the final. It's also true that 25% of the material on the final is on that last exam. So as you study for the last exam, you're knocking out a fourth of the material on the final. If you work ahead and work steadily in preparation, it shouldn't be an issue at all. All right, so be sure to let me know if you have questions, and I look forward to working with each of you during the course of the semester.